So here's a video which is going to describe everything what you can do with Google Cloud and Windows. So having a Windows VM on Google Cloud. So this is a machine I previously created, and I'm just going to run through the steps on some of the things I did. So just a note, this was a video I did record earlier where the sound was not so great. So I've had to kind of redo it now with myself talking over it, but you're going to get the gist of what I need to do. So the main thing is we got a Windows machine which is going to be a VM which is going to be hosted on Google Cloud. It needs an external IP address, and we want it make it accessible over the internet. So it needs a fully qualified domain name which is reachable over the internet. So the address I've used was mobicontrol hyphen server hyphen Talitha. That is the host name. And then the domain which has been purchased is rugbya1.com. And I will show you how I did that using Google Cloud and the SSL certificate as well. So we're going to use all the tools in Google Cloud DNS, Google Cloud Domains, to show how that is done. And then obviously hosting a Windows machine on Google Cloud, which is a bit more expensive. So therefore, you're going to have to check the price. And one of the tools I'm going to use is the Google Cloud Calculator, which is really useful to check all the prices. So let me get into that now. So I'm in the portion of the video where it will describe that. And you can see the server's already running. I normally stop it and start it as I go along, but there it is. So I've gone into Google Cloud Pricing Calculator, and this is a really good tool if you're going to use if you want to determine what you're going to run on Google Cloud. So if I've got any project and I've got any VM, I'm always going to check this calculator tool because it gives me a brief idea on the pricing, on how much I'm expecting to pay. So I've typed in here now a number of instances will be just one, and then I'm not going to use a Debian or a Linux. I'm going to use a Windows platform. So Windows will always be more expensive than Linux. So you've got to be a little bit careful if you're doing as a private project, something on your own, which you're going to have to pay out of your own pocket. So I've picked the family of Windows. You can go for a general purpose. If you want something stronger, you can go for something more memory intensive. So just keep to general purpose for the same kind of thing. N1 is the basic machines type you can use. You got a definition in Google Cloud. What is an N1? What is an N2? And things like that. So here for a Windows machine, you want something with a bit more spicy. So you want a bit of a strong RAM. So I think I went for 8 gig or 30 gig RAM, 8 CPUs, which is quite a fair bit machine. Can do all the solid things you want to do. Persistent storage. And then the boot disk, I think I went for 80. We'll give the price of 80, but my actual server is 50. And then we want an external IP address chosen from Google. So that will be very needed. And then we're going to see how many days. So I normally do 24 hours per day, 7 days a week, or you can change it to a monthly schedule just to get an idea. So if you look at it now on the right, you've got all the region of London, 730 hours per month. It's coming to around what is that? $521 a month. So it's quite pricey, especially if you're just going to be paying it out of your own pocket. Obviously, you got the tool. Within the tool, you can change it to your own currency for your region. So I'm in the UK, so it's 437 per month. That's if you've got the machine on continually 7 days a week, all month. So you should be expect to pay that more than, well, it's almost like a rent of a small bedroom flat. Okay, so now to create it, if you were going to do it, you'll just go in here, create a new name, pick your region. US Central 1 is quite a good fair amount, good price. Then you've got underneath machine configuration, if you want N1, N2, you've got all the definitions there. So, you've got an idea what it's doing. You can change the memory, go for standard. If you want a bit more sharper, you've got 32 gig of RAM. That's for a good server. And this bit here under boot disk and change, this is where you can switch it over from Debian, because it's default by Debian. You change it to Windows Server, and you've got all the different flavors of Windows there. Data center is probably going to be a bit more expensive, especially the latest ones. Then you carry on, you go into advanced, very important part. If you're going to do the networking, you want to choose your network, which it's in. By right, I've got it in the default network. And at this point here, I will pick an external IP address. So this IP address will be bound to this server. And it will be part of your price. So just be a bit wary of that. There's a lot of documentation on Google Cloud about the pricing, so you won't have any worries about that. So there's my server, which I've got running at the moment. So it's all up and running. It's got an external IP address, an internal IP address. And at this point, I've got it into the actual server. And I'm just going to show you the host name and the fully qualified domain name. So you can see the host name is Moby Control Server Talitha, and the primary DNS suffix is rugby.a1.com. So the fully qualified domain name is a combination of them both. So that is the resource or the server name which can be accessible from over the internet. That's when you put the host name dot primary DNS suffix. So that is now available from anyone over the internet to connect to. So you can see it here. There's the name, all ready to go, all done. Is a bit of background here, how I bought the domain. So rugby.a1.com is the domain. I went into Cloud Domains and I actually bought it directly from Google. It already gave me the DNS NS servers. They're the servers which are responsible for resolving rugby.a1.com. They are the name servers which have been set to that. So I'm not I cannot remember if I bought rugby.a1.com. I think I bought rugby.a1.com directly from Google. I do buy them from GoDaddy as well, but in this case I bought it directly from Google Domains. And then I created a public domain. So I created the DNS rugby.a1.com, which points to my new domain name. And then I've got an A record, which what we saw earlier is the same address as in my server. And it's got the IP address, which I took from Google Cloud as a reserved IP. And you can see the two entries match on the server and within the Cloud DNS settings within GCP. So that shows you how you can use Google Cloud and your external domain to match them together to your server. Okay, so I'll duplicate that tab. And then you can see here that if I go into IP addresses, I've got an external IP address already set. There you are. That's the IP address which is bound to my server, which I'm paying every month as an additional, but it's very minor. It's like 0.0p, 1p every month. If you don't use it, it gets actually more expensive. So you've got to use the external IP address given to you by Google. Okay, so that's that. So that's been reserved. That's in use. And I've got my region, which is US Central 1. Yeah, so this is the way you do it. You create an IP address and you can attach it to your VM. You should see the VM entry there. So that's your A record. So your A record, just to reinforce the idea, an A record, you're going to correspond the DNS name to the actual IP address. Then we got the NS records, which come automatically. These are the Google servers, the name servers, which will be responsible for hosting rugby1.com in this regard. So we now understand how the SSL, how it's important. So create a public record, just to recap, create a public zone within Cloud DNS and make sure you create an A record, and for good measure make a CNN canonical name CNAME as well. Now here I've proved I'm outside the network and I can NS lookup to Moby Control Server delete at rugby1.com and I get the same IP address back. Okay, so that shows everything's working across the internet. My server is being resolved. And I'm now checking, can I get to 443 because it's a web server. So it's going to be doing web stuff. So it's not Tracer. I made a bit of a mistake here. It should be Telnet. We just want to make sure there's a firewall rule which is allowing 443 access to it. Okay, so Telnet is not installed on my local machine, but 443 is open to access this particular server. So I can put a web server in place. I can host web pages and people can access it through the browser. So that's the setup for zone configuration. So you can use that setup for your own project as well. Okay, so I'm just looking now what I did after this. So you've got the idea there. So now we're going to go into the SSL. I needed an SSL certificate to make sure that when people do access this server, they don't get an ugly padlock, red padlock saying it's not available. So I went into this website and I bought a certificate for my server. When I download the certificate from here, it will come down locally. And you can see here, that's the certificate which I've just downloaded directly from this website. And I've got a copy of these certificates. This is the certificate which will be given to you by the vendor where you buy your third-party certificate, your server certificate. And you would have to upload it on the server itself and install it in the right places. So if I go now, I'll be going into the server shortly. Here's the server now. And I'm going to go into MMC on the server. And you can see they are the certificates there in the personal folder. I had to upload it onto my server. And the way to get there, you go to MMC through Run. You go Add, Remove, Snapping, and Certificates. Go Add Computer Account. Go Next. finish, go to certificates, and you go there. Now, this other bit is how to make initially, before you get a certificate from a SSL website, you need to make a certificate request from the actual server, because it creates what would look like a bit like a private key kind of information, whereby you're going to have to make a certificate request from the server. And this is the link I followed. It's a really good link. So I'll put it in the description, and you can use this link to follow the steps to make a certificate request from the server, which will then produce like a notepad text file with like a private key kind of, which is actually your certificate request, and you upload that into the SSL website, and then from there they can create the SSL certificate for your server. So follow these steps in this link carefully. There's a few things to do. It's a bit picky, but if you take your time and just go step by step, you'll get it. And then you'll end up with that, a CSR. And it's that what the third party SSL providers need before issuing you a certificate for your server. Yeah. And then I went in here, uploaded it. They gave me the certificate in turn. I downloaded the certificate. I uploaded it back into my server. And now if you go to that server, you're able to be certified. It's a secure connection, HTTPS, to my server. So there's the certificates which I get back from them. And if we just have a quick look on the server what it looks like, go back into MMC. Do the same thing again. Go into personal, and you should see the certificate there. So I normally go by expiration date. You can check with the expiration date. That's the 5th of 30th of the 5th, 2024. Let's have a look. Yeah, 30th of the 5th, 2024. That's when its valid dates are from. So you can see it's the right certificate. It's a certificate geared to my server only, and it's got issue to, name is correct, has what we saw earlier. And obviously I put it locally on there, and you just copy it over and install it into the right area of the certificate store on the Windows machine. Yeah, you just go to import, follow the steps. It will ask you for a private key, and you put in the private key. Okay, so that's very straightforward. So now we've gone over how to buy a domain, how to use Cloud DNS, and how to then buy the SSL certificate in order for it to work correctly. So very easy steps. It will help you tremendously, this server, to get it all up and spec'd up to be on your Google Cloud environment. Okay, so let's move on. So now we got the VM which is running. It's all spec'd up nicely. It's got the certificate running, and everything's going good at the moment. Now, I want to delete this now because I don't need it. So one of the things you want to do is create a machine image. A machine image is a copy, well, it's an image of the actual server. So it's a good idea. If you don't need the server any longer, you can just do an image of it, and then you can really use it anytime you wish in future. So I'm just going to create an image of this machine before I delete it. So give it a good name, give it a little bit of a description. And then underneath you can see source VM instance, which is the instance source which I'm going to make an image of. So anytime I need to fire it back up, I can just rebuild it, the server, at ease. So the machine image will take everything of it. And you can do it regional. Multi-region might be a bit more expensive, so keep it regional. Create that. That takes a good few minutes actually. So once you create an image, because it can be a large image, so it's going to take a bit of time to build. So you just leave that running for the moment. And obviously it's there, and you can keep it. I've worked out on the Google calculator, it'll be about £2 a month to keep an image of that size not being used within the machine images. So you're spending about £2 on a server image, just in case you need it anytime in the future. So for critical servers, anything you've made critical, you spent a lot of time, you can use it. A snapshot is similar but a bit more cheaper, and the reason for that is because it doesn't actually back up the OS. So you're only doing all the data. So it's much more lighter, but if you've got data on the server itself, you can use a snapshot, but it won't be backing up the OS image. So snapshot's a bit lighter, but if you want a full image, I would go for machine images. But certainly if if you've got like an SQL server and you've made you need to go to the SQL database and you need to delete some data, it's a good idea to do a snapshot before you do it, just so you can have a mirrored version of the server before you made that critical change. So, and you're not making any changes on the OS, you're just doing it on the component of SQL. So a snapshot is ideal for that. And here it is, I'm doing a disk of Moby Control Talitha, the same server, and I'm going to just do a small snapshot of that server. So that's good for particular moments when you need to make a change. So that takes a couple of minutes. That's a bit quicker to create than a machine image. So as it says there, create snapshot schedules to automatically back up your data. So you can schedule that in once a week as well if you prefer to have a snapshot of your servers. So that runs across as well. So that is coming towards the end now. So that is basically how you would do that. It's quite a lengthy process to do, but we've seen a few things now, how everything can be used on a Windows machine on Google Cloud. It's very practical, it's very easy to use. You can do snapshots and backups and machine images. If you find keeping a Windows server expensive all the time, build it instantly originally and then do a machine image of it, and then you can fire up that image whenever you need to do. That's making it a bit more cost effective rather than having the server available all the time. So here I go. I'm just going to delete the server now once and for all. I'm quite confident because I've taken the machine images and I've taken a snapshot, so I'm not losing anything. Is it's it's performed the task I want it to do, and that's what a VM is to do, is to perform the task you want it to do, and the job is done. So I think we're coming right to the end of the video now, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's made a bit more sense on how you can use Windows machines on Google Cloud Platform using a new domain, using SSL, and all the different features which is possible to have a professional Windows machine running. Thank you.